Hello, it's Stephanie and welcome back to my channel, and today we're doing my top 15 reads of 2020. Now, I was going to do my top 10 reads, but let's be honest, I could not narrow this down. Even narrowing it down to 15 was difficult for me. So that's what's happening. I was going to do like my top 10 and then do some like honorable mentions, but I figured go big or go home, right? All right. So I'm going to work backwards from this. And so I'm going to start with number 15. So number 15 is Every Heart a Doorway by Shannon McGuire. I think that's how you pronounce it. I'm probably butchering it. This was a really quick, short read. This is actually one of the books that Dana had picked out for me when she picked out my March TBR way back, 10 years ago. At least it feels like it was 10 years ago. I really enjoyed this. I gave this, I believe, 5 stars, and it was like Alice in Wonderland mixed with The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and all that kind of like awesome portal type of fantasies. It was so, I loved it. Loved it so much. I can't wait to read the rest of the series. And I'm really glad that she picked this because I'm not, like, I had it on my shelves, but it just like forced me to read it sooner rather than like keep pushing it down on my TBR list. And I'm really, really thankful for that. And it made the top 15 of my 2020 reads. So here we go. So that's number 15. Now, number 14, I don't have a physical copy of it. I actually read the ebook of it. So since I'm being super lazy and I really don't feel like doing a whole lot of editing, I'm just going to use my son's tablet to show you guys the cover. But number 14 is Once Ghosted, Twice Shy by Alyssa Cole. This was actually the second, it's not a novel, it's a novella. This is actually my second novella that I've read of Alyssa Cole this year, and I really liked it. The other one that I read was The AI Who Loved Me, I believe that's the title. And while I liked that a lot, I liked this one because it was a lesbian romance, and I'm all here for that. So this was number 14. I think I read it in like one evening. It was real quick, real fast, and a lot of fun. Okay, so number 13 on the list is Regretting You by Colleen Hoover. This one I read, I believe, in January of 2020, and I think it was like the second or third book I read of the year. I'm hit or miss with, I'm hit or miss with Colleen Hoover. I either really enjoy it or I think it's either okay or I don't even finish it. Like, I still haven't even finished Verity, and I'm not sure if I'm going to. But I really did enjoy Regretting You. It was a very, yes, it's a romance, but it also dealt with a mother and her daughter and their relationship as well. It's gonna go dark. And it really like kind of hit home because I have a daughter. Granted, she's not the same age as the character in here, but I really liked their relationship and how their relationship transformed, and that's why it made it on my top 15 of 2020. Okay, so number 12 on my list is ironically another pick that Dana picked for me for my March TBR this year, and that is Hate to Want You by Alicia Rye. This was an enemies to lovers and like a Romeo and Juliet type of scenario, and I really, really enjoyed this one. Um, sorry, it's like late at night when I'm doing this and my voice gets a little raspy, so just beware. Anyways, the two characters, they've known each other since they were kids. Their families used to be, I think their families used to be friends, and then something happened, or their families have always been rivals and they just fell in love. I don't remember which one it is, so don't quote me on that one. But they were like high school sweethearts type of thing, and drama happened, and they now only meet like once or twice a year on each other's birthdays, and have sex. So that's where it like starts up in the novel, and it was a lot of fun for me. I really enjoyed this one, and I'm definitely going to be reading more Alicia Rye because I really liked her writing. Now, number 11 on my list, I do have a physical copy of it because I just won it in a giveaway. But I lent it out to one of my friends who needed a cute romancy book just to, make her life a little bit better right now. And that is Love Lettering by Kate Claiborne. I really enjoyed this. This one was actually another read in January of 2020. And this one, the main character, she is a journal creator. Like, she makes her own journal for bullet journal users. I'm butchering this synopsis. But I really liked that concept and that, main character kind of feel. And this was more of like a slow burn romance for me, but it was really cute, and it it was 4.5 stars, I think, for me. So it was very close to a 5-star read for me. I think just parts of it is a little bit slow, but overall, I really did enjoy this novel, and I'm definitely going to reread it again in the future, and I will recommend it to everyone, basically. Number 10 on my list is a young adult novel. It's one of the few young adult novels I've actually read this year, and that is Crave by Tracy Wolff. And I really enjoyed this, even though it was a huge book, and I believe the sequel to this is even bigger. But it gave me all like the Twilight nostalgic feels from back when I read Twilight, but gave me more of like not really an adult, but more of a darker perspective about vampires within the young adult genre. It wasn't, oh, he's a vampire, but he's, good. It's, he's a vampire, he drinks blood, he can kill you type of thing. And I really appreciated that because I feel like even though I loved Twilight back when I read it back, 12 years ago, 13 years ago, when did that come out? 15 years ago? I don't know. I was still in high school, and that was a long time ago. But anyways, I really enjoyed this one. I have yet to pick up Crush. I do have a copy of it. I want to read it. I just have to be in the mood for a young adult. I can't pick up young adult like I used to, which is crazy to me because most of the books on the shelves behind me are young adult. So, there's that. Number 9 on the list is The Highwayman by Kerrigan Byrne. This was my first Kerrigan Byrne book that I read, and it's not going to be my last. This was a 5-star read for me. It was great. It was fun. It was about a kidnapping. It took place in Scotland. It was in a castle. It was just great. I really enjoyed this one, and I'm super excited to pick up more Kerrigan Byrne's. I did recently purchase, I think, 1 or 2 of her books, and I'm all here for it. Number 8 on my list is another young adult novel, and that was A Curse So Dark and Lonely by Bridget Kemmerer. Another fun fact, this was also part of the March TBR list that Dana created for me, and it's the third book that is making my top 15 that Dana put on that TBR. It's wild, I know. It's like Dana knows me or something. This was a really fun, like, Beauty and the Beast retelling. It was great. I actually recently purchased the sequel to this. It's on my shelf over there-ish. And I'm planning on picking that up probably in January or February, and then finishing up the trilogy, because the third and final book, I believe, comes out in February. I could be mistaken, but I know it's early, like first quarter 2021, and I'm super excited to continue the series and finish this series. I loved it. Number 7 on my list is a book that I got from Book of the Month, and it was a thriller. I actually have 2 thrillers on this list that made it this year, and that was The Guest List by Lucy Foley. I really enjoyed this one. This had And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie vibes to it, considering they were trapped on this island and the killer was one of the cast of characters. It was a very small cast of characters, so you had to guess who it was, and it went from past to present type of thing. It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it, and there were quite a few twists that I didn't see coming, and I really appreciated that. So this was number 7 on my list. Number 6 on my list is the other thriller that I read this year, and this was back in January that I read it, and that is No Exit by Taylor Adams. This book, some of the scenes that happen in there are still ingrained in my mind today. Like, I can't look at a nail gun the same anymore. Like, over the summer, my husband was putting together some balance beams for my daughter, and he was using a nail gun to put some of the balance beams together. And the sound, the trigger sound of it, literally made me jump because of a scene that happens in this book. I literally cannot think of nail guns the same way that I did before. They're, like, scary to me now. But I really enjoyed this. This book kept me guessing pretty much the entire time. Like, you find out really quickly who the bad guys are, and surprisingly, that doesn't deter from the whole mystery aspect of this. So I will say that I let my friend who loves thrillers read this, and she really enjoyed it. However, she doesn't like ambiguous endings, and this one has an ambiguous ending. So if you don't like endings that have slightly open-ended, where your mind could take it one way or another, this might not be the book for you, but I really enjoyed this book. I think it was great. Number 4 on my list is another historical romance, and actually, it's not going to be the last one on this list by this author, and that is Brazen and the Beast by Sarah MacLean. So over the summer, I joined the read-along, which now has turned into like a book club, where my friend Dana and her friend Kelly decided that they were going to read Sarah MacLean's entire backlist over the summer before her latest, well, not before, but to prepare into reading her latest release that came out at the end of June. And I was like, well, I've read a couple of Sarah MacLean's books, but I haven't read all of them, and why not read all 15? Now, I will say I'm still working on think it's 2 or 3 that I have left of hers to read, so I haven't read all of Sarah MacLean's, but this made my top 15. It was a little difficult trying to figure out which ones I wanted to include, but I am happy to say that Hattie made number, wait, this is number 5. Let's just pretend that I said number 5. Okay? Because I can't believe. So yeah, let's pretend I said number 5. This is number 5 on my list. Okay, the real number 4 on my list is A Touch of Darkness by Scarlett St. Clair. And this was so great. This is a Hades and Persephone retelling, and it takes place in modern times, and it takes place in, you know, the real world. And it's about this girl, Persephone, who's in college, and she knows who she is and that she is part of, like, the Greek gods and goddesses, like that mythology and everything, but she's in hiding. Like, none of the other gods know that she's alive. And one thing leads to another, and she falls in love with Hades, and it's the whole story. I love it. It's so great. I have to pick up the sequel. Actually, I have it in my Kindle to read, so I'm gonna read that soon. But I loved this one, and if you are a Hades and Persephone lover like I am, pick this up. Just do it. Number 3 on my list, we're getting back to historical romance, and we'll be in historical romance for the rest of this list. Number 3 is The Beast of Buzzwick by Emily Howard, and this was a book that Dana has been telling me to read since she's read it. I don't know when she read it, last year, I don't know, but every month or so she's like, hey, read this book. Hey, if you need something else on your TBR, read this book. And so I finally picked it up, and I wish I listened to her back when she first told me to read this book, because this was so great. It's a Beauty and the Beast retelling type of thing. It's, guys, historical romance just really makes me happy, and this was one of the best historical romances I've read up to date. Granted, we still have 2 more on this list, but I cannot wait for the next installment in this series. I believe it takes place, I think the main character in that one is the sister of this girl. I can't remember her name at the moment because but yeah, I highly recommend this book. So here's where it gets really tough for me. There were 2 Sarah MacLean books during the summer of Sarah MacLean that really just blew my mind. And even right this second, it keeps going back and forth. So I'm going to just go with my gut and say that the second best book that I've read in 2020 is 9 Rules to Break When Romancing a Rake. Now, I thought that this was going to be my number 1 pick for 2020, and it almost was. It almost was. Callie and Ralston are just, I love them so much. This book blew me away. When I first went into this book, this was the second published book by Sarah MacLean, and it was her first adult romance. The first book that she published was technically young adult. And this blew me away. Like, blew me away. I love this book so much. I love Callie and Ralston. Look at that step back. It's gorgeous. It's beautiful. The story is beautiful. Callie has my heart. And if you have not read this book yet, do it. Just do it. Okay. And that leaves the best book I read in 2020, and that was... Are you ready for this? Do you know what book it is yet? No Good Duke Goes Unpunished by Sarah MacLean. This book ultimately wins out over them all because of Mara. Mara is my queen. I bow down to her. She's amazing. She's also a redhead. I'm not being biased, I promise. But this book blew me away. Mara and Temple are just... Give me more. I will take a cutesy little short story of Mara and Temple again. And actually give me more of all of the side characters. Like, just do it. If you like historical romance and you like Sarah MacLean and you have not read this one, please do. Please, please do. Mara is a queen. Okay? She is a queen. Queen. So yes, this is the best book I read in 2020, and I'm okay with it. 2020 was pretty good with me for the reads. I think there were only a couple that were lower than 3 stars or I DNF'd. Everything else was 3 stars or higher, and ultimately this takes the cake. So let me know down below what your favorite books were that you read in 2020. Have you read any of the ones that are on my list? If not, do you want to? I'm gonna push Mara onto everyone I can. If you like this video, give it a big thumbs up. I'd really appreciate it. It does help. And if you're not a subscriber and you care to subscribe, I would really appreciate that. And I'd love you forever for it. But until now, I hope you guys all have a wonderful, wonderful new year. I love you all. Thank you.